And welcome to the weekend edition of the Nightly Nooch. Ted, a lot of things on my brain I want to talk to you about. I was going to talk to you about the climate change that they're now blaming on moose farts, but I'm going to save that for next week. I just spent this week in Washington, D.C., talking to some very courageous senators and House of Representative members, including Tom Tiffany from Wisconsin and Ryan Zinke from Montana, all trying to get wolves delisted in the continental 48. There's already some states where there's a partial delisting, but trying to get it everywhere. And, you know, I want to talk directly to our Wisconsin hunting friends today because they have a big election coming up there. And if we're successful getting wolves delisted in all states, all that means, Ted, is the management of wildlife within the state, as you already know, will be managed by each state. Texas will manage her wildlife. Kansas will manage theirs as their elected politicians see fit. And the same will be true up in Wisconsin. But unfortunately, if the Wisconsin voters, our hunting brothers and sisters, remain apathetic up there, then there's going to be a change in power in their Supreme Court, which is very powerful when it comes to legislation in Wisconsin. They'll never hunt wolves that are already overrunning them up there, Ted. Kind of a lot to unpack today, delisting wolves and Wisconsin controlling their own destiny. What's your take?
Well, my take is, with the mystical flight of the arrow, I would like to list the wolf on my menu. A wildlife resource can be only one of two things, either an asset or a liability. We manage deer and bear and cougars and elk and moose and pronghorn and turkeys and pheasants and ducks and geese, and they are thriving because we manage them based on sound science. Science has been thrown out the window by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the scammers at the EPA and the animal rights organizations, the organization that calls it the what is it? The Humane Society of the United States. Well, I'm going to donate to them because they'll save a puppy. No, you won't. They are a vicious anti-wildlife, anti-nature, anti-hunting, anti-animals in the asset column scamming organization. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is untrustworthy. The wolf should be listed as the magnificent big game animal that it is and have an annual harvest so they don't decimate the wildlife populations, the elk and the deer and the pronghorn that we have spent 100 years and gazillions of dollars paid for by the hunting families of the nation to bring back to optimum health and thriving populations. When the wolf is dismissed as a protected species that they call endangered, that is not as endangered, it's never been endangered in Canada, it's never been endangered in Alaska, and it's only endangered where you are not allowed to manage it based on the science that is the wolf. So yes, Wisconsin, what a great hunting state. The Badger State, the Dairy State. These are my blood brothers. Fred Bear, the great Fred Bear song, has been the #1 song in Wisconsin for 33 years because those are great, great conservation families. And yes, the love of the Fred Bear song indicates your greatness in the conservation world. And if you don't vote for a Supreme Court justice in Wisconsin, Dan Kelly will support your hunting rights and put the wolf in the asset column. This Protasewicz, she will keep it in the liability column. And as the wolf populations grow, like they did in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, they devastate the deer herd. And nobody goes across the straits into the UP anymore because there's no deer to hunt, because the wolves have decimated the herd, because the DNR is listening to anti-hunters instead of the people who pay their salaries. It's so simple, it's stupid. I would like to recommend, since HunterNation.org has been a force to reckon with in Wisconsin, please go to HunterNation.org. Make sure you're registered to vote, and you're voting in a Supreme Court justice in Wisconsin, and you can still register. There's still time, and you can make the difference because this, I think it's Janet Protasewicz, she is viciously against the Second Amendment. She is viciously against private property rights. She is viciously against hunting rights and wildlife management based on sound science, where Dan Kelly is one of us. He will support the wildlife in an asset column instead of the liability column. Wisconsin, You can make this happen. Please do.
Ted, lots to talk about again next week. I can't wait. We'll do it again right here on the Nightly Nooge.